Good morning. I ask that we all rise at this time for the presentation of the colors. The pastor of St. Luke Baptist Church, police chaplain, Reverend Kenneth Darrell Ray Blake.
May we bow our heads together. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter in the stormy blast, now our eternal home. It's unto thee, O God, that we gather in this day a sacred reflection, remembrance, and honor. We remember the hate that created this heinous act. We remember the love that united us after that act. May that love help us conquer hate on this day and forever. For every life lost, we remember with honor and dignity. For those families that get hurt, we remember. We ask you to give them comfort, peace, and strength. And for those who serve to help make life better for those on that day and the days after, we ask for their strength, their peace, and their hope. May you unite our nation, make us love one another and respect each other for your glory and your honor. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Detail, cover. To lead us in the flag salute, the President of the Paterson Veterans Council and a Vietnam veteran, Mr. Anthony Vancheri.
Please join me in saluting the flag that represents the greatest country in the world. Flag of our country, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And to render the national anthem, Paterson's Own, from First AME Zion Church, our soloist is Brenda Mickens.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through this perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. God bless America.
Thank you, Ms. Mickens. At this time, I ask that we remain standing, and I'm going to retire the color guard.
Right! Hey! Color! Right!
You may be seated. Good morning once again. 17 years ago, Congressman, it was a Tuesday just like this, and thousands of Americans left home and unfortunately did not return. In our city, Patersonian, who left his house on Buffalo Avenue, which was a block away from mine, and took his last ride right here at the New Jersey Transit Station. Unfortunately, he never returned home. We honor the first responders. We honor all those that never returned home, especially someone who's close to home, Kenneth P. Lira. For those of you who never met Kenneth Lira, like I knew him and Manny Martinez knew him, he loved skiing, he loved jetboarding, he loved soccer, he loved the New York Yankees. I never held that against him. But above everything, he was very conscientious. He was a computer tech at an internet company that was situated on the top 3 floors of the South Tower at the World Trade Center. He was only 28 years old. Today we honor him and the thousands of others that lost their lives on that tragic day. And at this time I'll call forward a proud American representing us in Washington, D.C. for opening remarks, the Honorable Bill Pascrell, our Congressman for the 9th Congressional District. Congressman Pascrell.
Thank you, Andre. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mayor, the City Council, elected officials, our police, our firefighters, our first responders. This is a painful day of memories. It marks one of the darkest days in the history of this great country, and we will never forget it. We all remember where we were when we found out, or when we saw. So on the 17th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on our country, we gather in prayer on behalf of nearly 3,000 beautiful lives. 411 of our nation's bravest first responders taken from us so cruelly came together in remembrance and strength after September 11, 2001. That unity fortified us. Today, we renew the love and the faith that binds us as one American family. We mark this occasion not only by remembering those that we tragically lost that day, but also by recognizing the incredible displays of heroism, courage, selflessness that we witnessed. 17 years ago, 17 years. Many seem like a long time for those family, friends, and communities that lost loved ones. But for many, it can seem like just yesterday. A fleeting memory of a last kiss for a spouse, a final goodbye to a mother, a father, a sister, or a brother. We may wonder how our lives would be changed if the events of that day unfolded differently. How dreams might have been fulfilled. I know there are no words or deeds that could ever erase the pain of their absence. But the survivors and families of 9/11 are an inspiration to everyone here today and across America. Through continued mourning, you've summoned the strength to carry on. To starting scholarships, volunteering in the community, pushing leaders to act. You have taught us tough lessons about being a good neighbor, about being a good citizen. There are many lessons we have learned from that fateful day. And much works remain. But not only to secure our nation, but to repay the debt to those who sacrificed so much on that day. To preserve their legacy, we must be committed to defending our nation. We must stand up for our values at every turn This is not a time for the weak-hearted. We must protect our citizens. We can live up to the legacy of the heroic police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, brave citizens who lent a helping hand on 9/11. By using their memories to spur us towards making our nation stronger, safer, and more resilient. To honor their selfless sacrifice, if you remember, we passed the James Zadraga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act to ensure that their brothers and sisters in the first responder community would not continue to suffer. We know many of the 9/11 heroes and survivors still suffer the effects of airborne toxins at Ground Zero. Under no circumstances should they be left holding the bag for their medical costs. We established this health and medical treatment program for responders and survivors who experienced or may experience health complications related to that day's tragic events. To build on that success, we just passed the Firefighter Cancer Registry Act. How many of those first responders, years later, have been impacted by that tragedy? The grief and grace of the survivors who honor today reminds us that through our darkest days, there's nothing we together as Americans cannot overcome. To the family of Kenneth Patrick Lira, who we have celebrated many times in these 17 years, we're here today and every day for you. We continue to commemorate Kenneth's life, which was tragically cut short 17 years ago. He was a beloved son and brother, and he was taken from us too soon. If you look into the newspapers today, there's some pictures of people probably none of us know, and they're being reached out to by their loved ones to say we will not forget either. Today we come together in service and remembrance of Kenneth's life. We honor his steadfast love and his faithfulness to his family and his community. They were very important to him. We may erect memorials and lay wreaths to venerate those we lost. But the most enduring honor is to ensure our community and nation to continue to be true to our values. We must recognize what's best in us and not let others divide us, ever. Finally, we must not forget the Americans who gave their lives in faraway places so that we can be here today, strong, free, and proud. It is their legacy we honor by not giving in to fear. We will not fear. We will not be afraid. We must conduct ourselves in a way that preserves our freedoms and with a way of life that continues being a beacon to the world. While these wounds of September 11th continue to heal, the memory of the loved ones here and across the country will never fade. They will remain in our hearts as we remember, and we will never, ever forget. God bless the Lira family, and God bless all those families who live with this deep tragedy in their hearts. And God bless our great country, as Tony Vincenzi says, the greatest in the world. Let us not forget where we are, what we need to be afraid of, and that is nothing. We will be afraid of nothing. So Mayor, I know you said during your campaign, one Paterson, this is one nation, and we can never, ever forget it. God bless you all, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Congressman. One nation under one God. We have a series of narrations to chronicle the events that occurred on that horrific day. Our first narrator at that time was running for office office. He was seeking to become the Passaic County Sheriff and left the campaign trail to go down to Ground Zero to join the first responders. Our first narrator is our esteemed police director, Mr. Jerry Spezial.
First, thank you very much. I want to just say a few words. To the Lira family, our hearts and our thoughts and prayers are with you every day. And Kenny's legacy will forever be etched in our hearts and in our minds eternally. So, God bless you all. At 8:46 a.m. on September 11th, a hijacked passenger jet, American Airlines Flight 11, out of Boston, Massachusetts, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, tearing a gaping hole in the building and setting it on fire. Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. At this time, another gentleman who was at Ground Zero, our Fire Chief, Brian McDermott.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for having me here. It certainly is a great honor for me to speak here today. Let me just start by saying this park here doesn't clean itself. Audrey, Javier, organized an effort to get this beautiful park back to where it was. Kyle Hughes, the union president for the fire department, orchestrated our firefighters along with police, DPW, and administrative offices staff to get this done. Please give them a round of applause for what they did. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So today you'll notice I'm in my kilt. Not in my chief's uniform, just like Chief Oswald. You know, one of the things I had the distinct honor to do after 9/11 was to play at more than 50 funerals of lost firefighters and police officers from that day. And you know, it wasn't a difficult decision to come and represent and show and honor the firefighters and the police officers by wearing what I wore on the days following. I wore this a lot after that. It was a great honor. I look today and I see no better day than today to fly our colors so large. Yes. And today is a very prideful day. And I look at that with nothing but great pride. I look at the firefighters that I see, and I know any one of them today, when that bell hits, would go to make the same sacrifice. And I thank them for what they do. So interestingly enough, last night my niece called me up and said, "Uncle Brian, can I interview you? You were at Ground Zero." And I said, "Sure." And one of the questions was, "What do you remember from the site there?" And I'll speak for all the guys, I guarantee they remember it, is the overabundance of dust, concrete dust, that resembled a gray powdered snow. It was so fine and light. And as the Congressman so eloquently put and so strongly supported us with the Droga Act in supporting firefighters and police officers for the health concerns and a potential cancer subsequent, and now with the new Cancer Registry Act. I know I'm registered for the Droga Act, and I hope and pray that I never have to utilize it. I really hope and pray that, but you never know. Because that dust is ever etched in my mind. It really is. And unfortunately, for so many of my friends throughout, and I have a lot of friends that are New York City firefighters that are going through this now, and it is a constant cycle of cancer victims. So the effects were not just felt on that day, they're continuously felt for the rest of our lives. Not only physically, but mentally. It changed us all. So on this day, I get to salute our firefighters, our police officers, and I thank the government for supporting us with the acts that will eventually help so many thousands of people and their families. So thank you.
Again, thank you to the Paterson Fire Department, members of my staff, Marty Contreras from the Paterson Police Department, for getting this park ready for today's dedication. At this time, we'll be joined by yet another first responder who was at Ground Zero from Paterson, our police chief, Troy Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I've always said that there's so many stories with September 11th that I would always use a new one, but with so many new faces, I do want to use one of the past stories that we had. And it kind of ties in some of the things that the mayor and the fire chief had to say. On September 11th, I left Paterson Police Headquarters with 11 rescue team workers, hard chargers that just wanted to get to Ground Zero. What happened was we found ourselves on this lovely day, tied up like everybody else, stuck in Fort Lee, not able to cross the George Washington Bridge. There's a possible second terror attack on the bridge. I'm stuck there, standing around, kicking dirt, marking time, and all we want to do is help. We want to get there and be there. And I see a familiar face in the crowd. I see, at that time, Sheriff Jerry Spezial. I go to him and I explain to him, Jerry, you got to help us. We got to get across the bridge. I got 11 people here that just want to save people's lives. Jerry pulled his strings, talked to people the way that Jerry does, did what Jerry does do. And next thing I know, here we are crossing the George Washington Bridge. With that, we didn't go to the West Shore Highway with the rest of the New Jersey departments and stand by or move. No, we didn't. In a blink of an eye, I found myself in Comstat sitting next to Chief Dunn, coming up with a plan of what Paterson Police were going to do. And we took an area, a grid search, and began our grid search. A lot of things that people don't realize is that within that grid search, the Port Authority cops that were rescued that day were part of our grid. We were there for that. Later that night, about 4 o'clock in the morning. I spent the next 4 days at Ground Zero, not sleeping much, and it's not about me, it's about the men and women, the police department, the fire department that were there doing that. And then I finally came home after 4 days. Got home early in the morning, turned on the radio as I'm driving home in my beat up Nissan. Maybe the cops remember that. And they were talking about September 11th. Turned the radio off and just drove home. Drove home, didn't want to hear anything, didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to see anything. Got home, took a shower. Just for the record, I didn't have hot water. Think about 4 days at Ground Zero with no hot water. Took a shower, went to bed. Got up the next morning to drive to my brother's house. Again, kept the radio off. And with that, I started to see something. And you have to imagine something. When you're at Ground Zero, you're in a bubble. There's no radios, there's no phones, there's no media, there's no news, there's nothing. There's nothing except, like Brian said, dust. Dust and people helping out. As I'm trying to start to drive towards my brother's house, I start to notice all of the American flags everywhere. All of the little ribbons. And at the first time then, I realized the American pride. I turned on the radio. I opened my eyes to see what was around me. And what I saw was a tremendous American pride to move past this. To never forget, but to move past this and remember how important it is to be Americans. So all I want to say is, God bless everyone for coming here. And God bless America, and thank you, and please never forget. Thank you very much.
At this time, for our second narration, Paterson Municipal Clerk, Dr. Sonia Gordon.
Good morning. Good morning. Before I read, I'm the next narrator, before I read my portion, those who were here last year and those who are not, I just wanted to share this portion. I know when the mayor prepared this program, he didn't know this. I don't think Audrey knew either. That my sister works with United Airlines, my youngest sister. And she had left the night before this crash, this morning, the day after. So I'm blessed to have her and get grace. She was away from home for a while. I left, her younger children with my mother and us. So I'll just get straight on to my portion. 9:02 a.m. on September 11, 2001, a second hijacked airliner, United Airlines Flight 175 from Boston, crashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center and explodes. Both buildings are burning. Though you have made me see troubles, many and bitter, you will restore my life again. From the depths of the earth, you will always bring me up. This is from Psalm 71, verse 20. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. We'll have the laying of the wreath by representatives of the Paterson Fire Department at this time. They'll come forward. Kyle Hughes and Chuck Honorado. You may be seated. Our next narrator is our City Council President, Councilwoman Maritza Davila.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before I read, I just also want to say that, 17 years ago, the United States was tested, we were tested, and 17 years later, we're standing here strong. I thank God, I thank everyone here today, to all our first responders. May I thank you for putting this together. It definitely was something that we will never forget. At 9:43 on September 11th, 2001, a third hijacked airliner, American Airlines Flight 77, crashes into the Pentagon, sending up a huge plume of smoke. Evacuation begins immediately.
Thank you, Council President. Let us now have a moment of silence. Thank you. I want to ask all the members of the Municipal Council, please rise. Thank you for joining us. Councilman of the 1st Ward, Michael Jackson. Councilman of the 6th Ward, Al Abdulaziz. Councilman at Large, Dr. Lalisa Mims. Councilman Luis Velez, and please pray for his family. They just lost a son last week. Thank you for joining us. This is your first public appearance since that tragic event. And Councilwoman and former Mayor from the 4th Ward, Ruby Cotton. Councilman from the 2nd Ward, Shaheen Khalid. Thank you very much. Our next narrator is Detective Alex Cruz, PBA President. While we wait, I do want to acknowledge from Secretary of State Keisha Way's office, Jill Shortway Ippolito. Thank you for joining us.
At 10:05 a.m. on September 11, 2001, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses, plummeting into the streets below. A massive cloud of dust and debris forms and slowly drifts away from the building. Just want to take a moment and thank everyone for taking the time to honor our fallen. Only happened 17 short years ago. And we always have to remember not only the men and women that we lost that fateful day, but also the men and women that responded and we continue losing. This Saturday, we had an officer-involved shooting, and as I responded to the hospital to make sure that our officer was okay, I received some additional devastating news that night, which took me back, which I wasn't waiting for. It was an officer who told me, Alex, I have to talk to you and I thought I had to do something with the travesty that we had just encountered on Saturday. He put me to the side of a room. I wasn't waiting for this devastating news, and he told me that he was diagnosed, he's been fighting like a warrior for several years with cancer. He was in remission, and he just got some bad news that now he has 2 additional types of cancer. And it's all related to 911, because we all responded with him. We see it in the news that, with carcinogens, with the asbestos that was out there and all that hazardous waste. This is not a illness that comes after you were exposed 1, 2, 3 years ago. That exposure, and it only takes one exposure, and it comes back 20 to 25 years later. Well, this officer is my proud brother, Tony Lucanto, and I want you to keep him in your prayers, because we have to stay strong, be there for him and his family, and I hate to say this, he won't be the last. So please, your thoughts and prayers for our brother, for all our fallen, and for the brave men and women standing behind you that go out there and fight for the freedoms that we enjoy every single day. God bless you and thank you.
At this time, I ask that we have a moment of silence. Thank you. And now for the laying of the wreath by the Paterson Police Department. Please rise. Please be seated. Our next narrator is the Superintendent of the Paterson Public Schools, Ms. Eileen Schaefer.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of the Paterson Board of Education and the Paterson School District, we say to the Lear family, our prayers and thoughts are with you, and may God continue to bless you. At 10:10 a.m. on September 11, 2001, a portion of the Pentagon collapses. Also at 10:10, a 4th hijacker airliner, United Airlines Flight 93, crashes in a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, southeast of Pittsburgh. Moment of silence.
Thank you, Superintendent Schaefer. Before we proceed to our next narrator, although she's not on the program, I'd like to call forward our Assemblywoman, Patersonian, Shavonda Sumter, to speak on behalf of the 35th Legislative Delegation.
Good morning, everyone. To the family, my deepest sympathies. As a mom and a mother of a son, it is always heartfelt and warming to know that your son left behind a great legacy. And although he's gone too soon, we do take this moment to call us and send our thoughts, prayers, loves, and hug to you. One of the great things that I love about the city of Paterson is that we are a city filled with love. When I drove up this morning, not only were the officers and DPW workers and firefighters in their uniforms standing proud, but to see that flag flying defiantly in the face of what today represents for us reminds me of what a great country that we live in. To our officers and our firefighters and our EMTs, who give your lives selflessly. When we talk about cancer, when we talk about diseases and illnesses that come in the face of providing a service, life-saving service, and you do it selflessly, we don't pause enough to think about what's the cost. And you don't think about the cost when you're going in to rescue someone. So as a legislator, I commit to you to make sure that we continue to fight to make sure that you have access to health care and benefits along with the congressman, because there is no greater service, no greater love than to commit one's life to the saving of others' lives. And that's what makes our country great. God bless.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Our next narrator is a dear friend of the Lira family, Ms. Silvana Garcia, an OEM volunteer.
Good morning, everyone. My love and respect to the Lira family. So very sorry for your loss. My love and respect to the victims of 9/11 and to all our first responders. Thank you very much. At 10:28 a.m. on September 11, 2001, the World Trade Center's North Tower collapses from the top down as if it were being peeled apart, releasing a tremendous cloud of debris and smoke. Moment of silence.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge from the Passaic County Sheriff's Department, Paterson Zone, Chief Darrell Walton. Thank you for joining us. And I also want to ask all the members of my cabinet to rise. I appreciate that you have joined us, please. Thank you. This time, on this solemn occasion, I'm going to ask the Lira family to join me so that we can lay the wreath in honor or in memory of Kenneth Patrick Lira. Mike Amon from Excel Holly Blaze, thank you for joining us as well. Director Kilis. Please rise.
Good morning to each one of you present at this ceremony, dignitaries, family and friends. A day to remember, full of pain and sadness. First of all, I have to congratulate in a very special way to Mayor Andre Sayegh for his nomination as the mayor for Paterson City in name of my son, Kenneth Lira Arevalo, who may be very happy and proud of you, and also very grateful seeing you honoring and remembering him and all those victims whom departed on such horrendous tragedy on September 11, 2001. It was also a Tuesday, a beautiful sunny day, but a day that marked down our hearts, our peace, and our future. Thanks to all of you who made possible this ceremony and keep their memories alive. Since many years ago, to see students as part of this ceremony was one of my deepest thoughts. Once I asked for it to a former mayor, and his response was that the city had did most everything on my son's name. But I wasn't asking just because my son's name unfortunately appeared on such bloody list of victims, because my thoughts and desire and interest was not to forget those wonderful and majestic towers and what happened to them, why and how they ended. In other words, as I said, don't forget to remember those heroes of the innocence, of the chaos, of the unknown. Because many of them, as my son Kenny, they even didn't imagine what was happening. I'm very far to believe that they will die. That's what they dictate. Even though I know today that my son is at peace, one side of my heart is hollow and empty forever. My lovely son, I miss you so much. Love you always, your dear man. God bless all of you. And bless America. And bless all the first responders. And I have to thank Eileen, thanks to be here with your students and make them learn on what happened yesterday. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you to Michael Lira, his younger brother. You may be seated. So we contacted New Jersey Transit about doing what is fitting, Congressman, and that's dedicating this train station where Kenneth took his last ride in his memory. This morning we are honored to have with us from New Jersey Transit, Mr. Kevin Corbett.
Thank you, Mayor, Congressmen, dignitaries, and of course, most of all, to the Lira family. I'll go a little off script. Not many would be aware that I was in charge of the 9/11 recovery, the economic recovery for New York. And when I heard the chief reciting some of those memories, everyone has different memories. Mine was the smell of gas at the site, because the gas lines were broken. And then it was this smell of like molten steel as the buildings were melting. But what I really liked most is what the chief hit is, through all the work that everyone was doing, you really really saw the country come together in a way that we haven't in a long time. And it was a really remarkable thing. And I think it's really appropriate for those untimely losses that everyone going to work was really amazing how the region came together, the country came together. It really was a very special time. But it came at a cost, and certainly we're here today to honor those and the families of those who went to work, took New Jersey Transit to work, and didn't come home. And certainly the one comment I'd like to make is, we go to work and we expect our day to play out, and sometimes that doesn't happen, and certainly we have a great deal of loss for Councilman Bowers and his family for their untimely loss. Our thoughts and prayers certainly go out to him and his family as well. I am honored to be here this morning in this event. I think as the Congressman mentioned, you have memories of where you were for each generation. For my father's generation, it was Pearl Harbor. For my older brother's generation, where were you when John F. Kennedy was assassinated? And I think for our generation, very much for those who were born, say from 1993, 94 on, was where were you on September 11th? And we have many horrible stories, but as I alluded to, there were many great stories, and we've become a better country for that. New Jersey Transit, we've had so many people who were involved in helping with the search and rescue as well. We have our police department, and everyone was sharing stories yesterday. It really is so important that we remember and that we don't forget the families. But certainly today we're here for one of those special customers Kenny Lira. And lost his life in the attacks. He was working on the 110th floor, as I recall, on the South Tower. And we are glad as New Jersey Transit to be able to be here at our station to dedicate for all our customers and the brave responders who never made it home that day. And I'm hoping in Kenny's memory, as commuters go by, we'll hope this will always serve as a constant reminder of that day and what they did and what they sacrificed and what their family sacrificed. So with that, we have a proclamation to offer. I'll spare necessarily reading all of it, but the proclamation in Kenny's honor, whereas on December 9th, 1972, Paterson, New Jersey welcomed the son of hardworking Peruvian immigrant parents, Kenny Lira, who was raised to love and care for others, to have the utmost respect for everyone, and to be his own individual. And whereas he graduated from St. Brendan's School in Clifton, New Jersey, where he learned valuable lessons that formed the basis of the individual he would become, and whereas Kenny subsequently graduated from Paramus Catholic Boys High School, where he was honored with his leadership skills and developed strong personal friendships, it was during this time that he found a fulfilling career path in telecommunications, which pursued in the coming years. Whereas Kenny Lira went to work at Genuity on the 110th floor of the World Trade Center and left for work that morning from the Paterson train station here. Like thousands of other Americans, Kenny would never return home that evening. Therefore, New Jersey Transit dedicates this station to the memory of Kenny Lira and all the dedicated first responders who gave their life on that day. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Please don't leave. So, we felt it was proper tribute to finally erect a sign here in honor and in memory of Kenneth Lira. And on December 9th, which is Kenny's birthday, New Jersey Transit will be back. We'll dedicate a plaque to him closer to the station. So I'm going to ask at this time if the family can join us. And for all to rise, Congressman, please join us. Mayor, please. Council members, as we unveil the plaque in memory of a proud Pattersonian, Kenneth Patrick Lira.
Yeah! Very nice. Very nice. Get a picture back. I'm sorry. Señora Marina. Gracias.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cede my closing remarks to our immediate past mayor, Jane Williams-Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning to our mayor, to our congressmen, to our elected officials, and to our first responders who are very dear to my heart. I thank God for this day. I thank God that we're here as a family in Paterson to remember those who lost their life on September 11th, 2001. We all can remember where we were on that day. Every September 11th, I think back to the day that it happened, and I say, God has brought our country together. In Paterson, we are a family. When one person hurts, we all hurt. We respect our first responders. We respect our city. And God has allowed us to continue to flourish in our city. Each day when they leave their homes, when they leave their families, they don't know if they're coming back, but they stand tall for us in the city of Paterson. We stand here with Mrs. Lira, as I remember the first time that we memorialized her son and her family. We stand here with her today and we ask God to continue to bless her and to bless her family. And we know that when you lose someone, a mother never wants their child to go before them. But we love you and we will always be here for you. I thank God for each of you. And I thank God for our mayor and for our city. We are one city under God, and we stand together always as a family. May God continue to bless our country, our state, and our great city of Paterson. Thank you very much.
I also want to thank from the Paterson Board of Education, Commissioner Emmanuel Capers. Thank you for joining us. Please be seated. I've been informed that, unfortunately, Senator Cory Booker couldn't make it this morning, but we have from his office, Project Specialist Bianca Madrazarova.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Senator Booker has asked me to read a letter on his behalf since he could not be here today. But first, I just want to say thank you to all the first responders, firefighters, and police officers for keeping us safe every day, and thank you so much for what you do every single day. While I am unable to join you in person today, please know that I am with you in spirit as you gather to remember, mourn, and honor the victims of the attacks on September 11th, 2001. We will never forget the tragic events of that faithful day, nor will we forget the men and women that we lost 17 years ago. On this day each year, we come together in our communities throughout our state and nation to pay tribute to those we lost and those courageous and dedicated first responders, many of whom were New Jersey's own, that answered the call of duty and rushed into harm's way. These selfless and heroic men and women put themselves in danger for the protection and in the service of others in our nation. I am humbled to join you in sending prayers to the families and friends of the victims and to all who reflect on the events of that day. As we pause to remember those we lost, let us stand and pledge our commitment to honoring their memory through acts of service and love. Thank you.
So, before we leave, to pay proper tribute to Kenneth Lira, pass by his house at 323 Buffalo Avenue on the corner of Raritan and Buffalo, and pray for his spirit, pray for his mother, pray for his brother, pray for his father, pray for his entire family. He's one of ours, one of the thousands that never returned home on that horrific day, and we'll always remember him and our fellow Americans. At this time, for our benediction from the King of Kings Worship Ministry, Pastor Charles Salinas.
Thank you, Mayor. My heart goes out to the Lira family, for all those that were part of this horrific day in 9/11, 17 years ago, for the first responders, for all those that are still being affected 17 years later. Our heart goes out to them. Our prayers go out to them. I want to say this before I recite Psalms 23, that we have a God that is our shepherd. We have a God that comforts us, that protects us, that even if we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we will fear no evil. And we have a God that mercy and comfort and peace will follow us all the days of our lives. Psalms 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness, mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." Amen. Amen. God bless you.
This concludes our program, and I'd like to thank the members of my staff, Audrey, Maggie, Kathleen, for all those who put this program together. And again, we salute the men and women who put those uniforms on every day, our first responders, whether it's the Paterson Police Department, the Paterson Fire Department, Paterson Public Works as well. And once again, before you leave, don't leave without acknowledging the Lira family. Thank you very much.